Today we're going to talk about how to teach an effective phonics lesson. Now, as an educator, before I learned how to simplify my process to teach my students how to read and write effectively, I would spend countless hours of my time looking on the internet, looking on Pinterest for effective strategies, resources, and so on, and I would end up more confused. So my task today is to simplify it for you so that you can get the same results that I did with my students in my classroom. So whether you're an educator or you are a homeschool parent, this is going to be super helpful. So keep on watching. So the very first thing that I always do to be prepared for a lesson is going to be to get all of my resources and supplies that I need for that lesson before I even start, because there's nothing worse than starting a lesson and realizing you don't have something, and that will get you and your child or your students off of the task at hand. And we want this to move like a well-oiled machine so everyone stays engaged. The things that I will have for a phonics lesson are my sound cards. Now I use these and I'll explain how I use these, but I do have these on my website. These are super helpful for teaching my phonics lessons. I will always have a whiteboard of some sort, a marker and an eraser. And then I do have some resources that I use for independent work. You do not have to have these. You could just give your child a whiteboard and marker and eraser, and you would just have a list of words. But this is helpful for me for independent practice. I have a reading sheet. I have a spelling sheet. And then we do have our decodable text, which I will go over. But like I said, you don't have to have these resources. These are just what I have for independent practice, just because it makes things a lot easier. But you can always just use your whiteboard, marker, and eraser and have your child write words and read words on this whiteboard. So I'll kind of show you both ways, and you can decide how you want to do that. But as always, you always want to have a list of words that follow the pattern that you are going to teach. So let's get started in the lesson. I have all of my supplies. I'm ready to go. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to review sounds that I have already taught. So I am going to teach a lesson as if I have taught these digraphs, and I'm going to show you how I would do that. So I would show them the card, and I am not helping them because they should already know this. I've already taught them this digraph. So they would say WH whistle W. Now, it's very important that you are paying attention to what their mouth is doing when you are saying these sounds, because the articulation in the mouth and the lips is going to be very important for them in the future. PH, phone, SH, ship, shh. Now on this one, again, the way you articulate is going to be very important because kids like to confuse SH and CH, CK, sock, K, CH, chin, ch. Now, with some of these, I do have them create actions, so you could have them create actions that will help them to remember these sounds as well. But these mnemonic devices and our sayings that go along with it help my students to really remember the sound. To challenge them, you could say, I don't want you to say our saying, just tell me the sound. So they might just say w, sh, k, ch. Right? So I'm making them identify, okay, I have to look at the spelling pattern and just say the sound without my saying, because some kids can get stuck on this saying. However, this is helpful for kids that when they are struggling and they can't remember a digraph, if I was just to say whistle, it reminds them of the sound. Whoa, right? So these are super, super helpful for me. Again, if you're interested, I do have these in my store on my website, so I'll link those down below. So I review the sounds that we've already taught. And now I'm going to teach a new phonetic spelling. Again, I am going to use my sound cards. My sound cards are like my lifeline, and this is how I do quick reviews, and this is how I teach the new patterns. So for example, we have the digraph TH. Now the digraph TH can say two different sounds. It can say a voiced sound and an unvoiced sound. Now more commonly, you're going to see the unvoiced sound. You can see the voiced sound. However, it's not going to be as common. So this one will be more common. This one is going to be less common, but I do teach both because you will see this in the word like the, there, then, right? Those type of words, you're going to see the voiced sound. Most of the words I'm going to be reading today are going to be unvoiced, but I like to teach both. For example, I would say we are going to learn the digraph TH. Now remember, a digraph are two letters that stick together and say one sound. It's very important that they understand this because some kids will want to say t when they see it. But this is a digraph. When you see TH, they're going to stick together and they're going to say one sound. So then I would teach them TH, thumb. I would discuss what my mouth is doing, what my voice box is doing, what my tongue is doing. All of these are so important, especially with these digraphs, because a lot of students will get TH and F very confused because of the way that they're producing it in their mouth. So for example, the F sound is f. We bite our lip when we say f. When we say TH, we say and our tongue sticks out. So I always told my students that when we say the TH sound, this is the only time you get to stick your tongue out at your teacher is when you say your TH sound and we bite our tongue. And that really helps them to remember that, oh yeah, TH, tongue out, F, bite my lip, right? So articulation is very important to explain when you are teaching certain sounds. So I would teach them TH, thumb, can you say it with me? TH, thumb, can you say it with me? TH, thumb, and I'm going to do this a couple of times with them, and then I'm going to have them do it on their own. What is this sound? TH, thumb, right? And they're going to do it on their own, and I'm just going to point to the pictures and the letters so that they can do it on their own a couple of times. And then I would teach them, okay, that is an unvoiced sound because we aren't using our voice box. We're just using our breath. TH can also make another sound, which is a voiced sound. That means that my voice box is going to vibrate. That's why above this TH, to help you remember, I have a squiggly line because it's vibrating. So this is still TH, but this one we're not going to see as often. We're going to use the unvoiced sound more often when we read and spell, but you can also see it as voiced. And this one says, ooh, it tickles my tongue, right? So again, reminding them that their tongue is still out, but our voice box is going to be turned on. So TH, feather, TH, feather, and again, I'm doing it with them so that they can hear and see what it is I'm doing and get it stuck in their head. And then I would have them do it on their own a couple of times so that they can remember. And then if you wanted to, you could even mix them up in your sound cards just like this and say, okay, let's review all of our sounds again and have them go through and say all of the sounds. So they have to recognize the ones that they just learned and the ones that we have already learned. So the next thing I'm going to do in my lesson is phonemic awareness. Now, some people think that you should do phonemic awareness first and then teach your skills, or not your skills, but your spelling patterns. It's totally up to you. Honestly, I don't think that there's really a problem with doing it either way, whether you do phonemic awareness first and then do your sound cards and teach the new pattern and things like that. I don't think it really matters. However, I do like doing phonemic awareness before we're about to read and spell words together and then on their own, just because this is the skill that they're going to need when they are going to spell. So with phonemic awareness, you want to have that word list available to you so that you can have those right off the top of your head. So the first thing that I'm going to do, and you can do blending first or you can do segmenting first, it's totally up to you. But I generally will do blending with my students first. So I'm going to show you what that might sound and look like. So for example, I would say, I'm going to tell you some sounds and I want you to tell me the word. The sounds are B, A, what's the word? And they would say bath. And I would do another one. I, N, what's the word? They would say thin. Okay. Now I would do maybe 5 or 6 words. It kind of depends on whether or not your child or student is good at this. If your students or your child are really, really good at this skill, phonemic awareness, and they just like are doing it, you don't really have to do it every single time because they have mastered it, okay? But if your child is still kind of struggling with that piece, then continue on. Okay, so now we're going to do segmenting. So now I'm going to tell them a word and they're going to segment the sound. So I would say, the word is math. Can you tell me the sounds? And they would say, Now, I'm not helping them with this part where they're doing it. If your child kind of struggles, then I might mouth it, or you can use a very concrete method. So you could get like little counters, you could get goldfish, you could get Skittles or whatever, and just have them move a Skittle or a counter for every single sound that they are saying. And this can help students to visualize that if that's what they need. Okay, so I'm going to do another one. All right, the word is with. They would say w, I. All right, so now they're practicing that skill of blending the sounds back together, which is going to be helpful for when they're reading, and then segmenting the sounds apart when they are spelling. So this is a really important skill that I would not skip unless your child has mastered it. So this is where our lists of words are going to come in handy here, because I always use an approach where I'm going to be modeling and thinking out loud in the beginning, then we're going to do it together, and then they're going to do it on their own. Now, it's super important that you're modeling, that you're doing it together, and then having them do it on their own. That independent practice piece is going to be very vital to their success. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be writing words on my whiteboard. Now, you can add, if your child is super easily distracted and having multiple words on the whiteboard is going to distract them, just do one at a time, or you could do multiple words at the same time as well. So I'm going to write just a couple of words on my whiteboard. Okay, so now I've got a couple of words on my whiteboard that we are going to practice reading together. Now, I will usually do like one or two where they're just listening and I'm thinking aloud. And this is going to help them to recognize what their brain should be doing when they are trying to decode a word. So I'm going to show you what it sounds like and looks like when I do a think aloud. So I have this word right here. Now I'm trying to notice the letters that are in my word, the vowels that are in my word, and what they are going to say. Now I can see the TH that we just learned today. TH is going to say I can see that this is a closed syllable, which remember, that means that there are consonants closing in my vowel, which means that my vowel is going to be short. And short vowel A says ah. Okay, now I know what patterns I see. I know what my vowel is going to say, and now I'm going to segment my sounds. B, a, f, bath. Ooh, I like to take baths. Now, I usually will give them context for the word, maybe have them use a sentence for the word, because it is important to have meaning with these words as well. So what I'm doing is I'm showing them that I'm going to find the patterns that I recognize in the word. I'm discovering what that vowel is going to say and why, and then I'm segmenting and I'm blending it back together. Now on this next one, I might say, can you help me on this next one? What patterns do you see? Now we're kind of doing a we do. I'm still asking them questions that's going to help them to identify what I just did for a think aloud. And they might say, ooh, there is a TH in that word. You're right. There is TH in that word. What does TH say? And they would say, th. All right, what's our vowel? Ooh, it's A. What's A gonna say in our word, and how do you know? You're right. This is a closed syllable. We have consonants closing in my vowel, which means my vowel is going to be short. What does short vowel A say? Ah, right? There's a lot of foundation that your child's gonna need if you are teaching digraphs, okay? So now they know the pattern. They know this is going to be a short vowel. Now I'm going to have them sound it out. Sometimes I mouth it, and sometimes I just have them do it on their own. But it just depends on my students or the child I'm working with and where they are at. So on this one, I'm just going to ask them to segment the sounds and blend it together as I point to it. Math, very good. We do math every single day, right? So I'm showing them examples. What am I doing to figure out what this word says? We're following the patterns that we have learned today, which is TH. And then from here, I would have them do it again on their own. I'm asking questions. What patterns do you notice? What vowels do you notice? What is the vowel going to say? What are the sounds in this word? Segmenting it and blending it. And I would have them do it with me. Now, as you can see, There are a couple that are pretend words. Pretend words are super, super helpful to know whether or not your child or your student can actually identify patterns in a word and figure out an unknown word, because some kids might have the word bath memorized because they've seen it before, or math or thin. They might have it memorized because they've seen it before, and they might not be thinking about the patterns within the word and simply just reading the word because they already have it stuck in their brain, which is amazing because we want all words to turn into sight words. However, we do want to know, if you were to come across a word that had these patterns, can you still have the strategies and skills to decode this word? So for example, I have this pretend word here, right? And they've not seen this before, so they're going to have to identify, what are the patterns? What is the vowel going to say? What is the vowel? Segment and blend the sounds, right? Muff. Ooh, muff. Have you ever heard the word muff? And they might say yes. Some kids are like, oh yeah, I've heard muff. It's like the month, right? Because they say things weird. And it's like, nope, that's the word month, right? We have an sound in there. This is muff, and this is a pretend word, right? So having some pretend words in there is going to be super important. So as you can see, I kind of have scaffolded out the help that I am providing them. I am helping them. I'm giving them a think aloud so they know what my brain is doing. And then I'm having them work it out as I'm asking them questions. Once I have read words with the pattern with them, now I'm going to spell words with the pattern. Now it's super important that you are not just reading words. Spelling and reading go hand in hand. You have to do both. For the child's brain to actually turn words and patterns and things like that into a sight word or something that is just stuck in their brain, you have to do that spelling piece. That spelling piece is actually going to stick it in their brain. So again, I am going to be doing a very scaffolded version of spelling. I'm going to be doing a think aloud. So I'm going to say, sometimes I'll show them a picture, and then they will have to say, okay, let's say I have a picture of a bath, right? All right, here is my picture. What is this a picture of? Ooh, this is a picture of a bath. Bath. I'm going to say the word bath. I'm going to tap the sounds that I hear in this word so that I can write the letters. B, a, f, bath. Ooh, I hear 3 sounds. Now, sometimes I will write lines. Some kids need that, some kids don't, but I'm going to write lines so that they have a strategy if they ever need it. B, a, f. Ooh, my word has 3 sounds. B, a, f. Okay, let's see. First sound, bath. B, b. Ooh, that's the letter B. B, a. Ooh, that's the letter A. B, a. Ooh, what's my tongue doing? Ooh, that is our digraph. T, H. Let's segment my sounds and see if I got it right. B, a, bath. I did. Can you help me spell the next word? Right? So that was like me doing a think aloud. I am talking out loud what my brain's doing, what strategies I'm using, and the technique of it, right? Because that is super important that you are modeling that so that the kids know what they are supposed to be doing. So now I might show them another picture. Now you don't have to have pictures. This is totally up to you. I do have picture cards if you're interested on my website. So you can have pictures that go along with the patterns. And then on the back, you can have a self-correcting where it has actually like the words. So you could use those as a scaffolded option as well, where you literally have words available to you. You don't even have to look up a word list, and you could just set those cards down, have them read the words, and then you could flip them over. So it's just the picture, and then you could just have them set the picture down on a whiteboard and then spell it and then flip the card over, and they can see whether or not they spelt the word correctly. And then I'll put the link for those as well down below. I'm going to have them help me on this one. So I'm going to say, ooh, this is a thin stick. My word is thin. Can you say thin? I always make my students say the word. If they can say the word, it will help them to identify what is happening in their mouth so that they can break the word apart into sounds and then eventually into the sound spellings. So I would have them say thin. Thin. Can you tap the sounds with me? Thin. Let's write some lines for our sounds. Can you say the sounds again? Thin. thin. What's that first sound? Now I am giving them questions just like I was for reading, but I'm not telling them the answer. I am making them pull it from their own brain. Well, I'm here to help. What was that sound spelling? It was TH. TH says I. What's my vowel? The letter I. I. N, right? And as you can see, I am going back and I'm saying the sounds again and again and again as we're spelling, because a lot of kids have to go back. They might have to say thin, tap the sounds, Then they might have to say it again, thin. So depending on the child and the scaffolds they need and how new they are to spelling will depend on how much you have to repeat the sounds, but it does help them to make sure they have all the sounds if they repeatedly say the word and then say the sounds that they have written down so they can find which sound they have not yet written down. So once I have done the piece where I am helping them a lot, like that is my lesson. That is actually the lesson of TH, right? So now I want them to independently work on this, because if they are always being helped by me and I'm always asking them the questions, then they're not going to be able to do it on their own when the time comes. So they need to be able to do it on their own to where they can ask themselves those questions and read words and spell words with that pattern. I will always, this is why I've created these sheets, because these sheets are so simple. Once I'm done with my lesson, I can literally hand them the sheet and say, I want you to read the words, match them to the pictures. This helps them to recognize, am I reading the words correctly? It gives it meaning. And then same thing on the spelling page. I do use the same pictures for my reading and my spelling. I just tell them that when this is done, they have to give it to me and they don't get to look at it anymore. And they have to now spell the words. Again, my pages are super simple. If you wanted them to, you could have them highlight the patterns. So I'm going to show you what it would look like. So I might have my students go through and find all of their THs and say the sound. So they would say TH and highlight, TH highlight. And then I might have them identify. How do you know what the vowel is saying in all of these words? Oh, all of these words are closed syllables because they're closed in by a consonant, right? This is something I've already taught them, so they should know, right? So now my TH is highlighted so that they can remember what that says, and I'm just having them do this on their own. I'm not helping them with this. And then they're going to go and they're going to read the words and they're going to match it to the pictures. Bath. And then obviously they're going to draw a line to bath, right? So they're going to complete this sheet. Then we're going to move on to spelling. Now, again, with spelling, I do it the same way that I just taught it. So they are going to be cued to say it, to tap the sounds, to map the letters, to graph it, and then to read their word. It is so important that when they are done spelling the word, they read it, because a lot of students will spell words and then they don't read it. And they are missing so many sounds. So I always tell my students, after you spell a word, it's so important that you read that word. So now I have said it, tapped the sounds. I mapped the letters that correspond. Now, when you're teaching a digraph, again, I said, right, a digraph are two letters that stick together and say one sound. They're going to be in one box. So every single box is going to represent a sound, not a letter, right? So thin, right? So now my students I've taught my lesson. I've taught TH. We've practiced it together. We know what it says. They've now read it on their own. They have now spelt words on their own. And I always will use a decodable passage to really get it to stick. That the reason that we are learning TH is so that we can read words, stories, books, and so on with the pattern TH. So I've created decodable passages because there are a lot of good decodable passages out there, but there's not a lot of them that are super scaffolded. And when I say scaffolded, what I mean is that I create mine to have sounds and words that they get to practice in isolation before they read the passage. Now, not all students need this, just some of them. Some kids are super awesome at just having a passage that looks like this and they don't need that scaffold. But if your child is struggling, the scaffolded option is super helpful because it will have those sounds and words in isolation. So what I always have my students do if I have a struggling reader, I'm going to have them say the sounds first. So at the top, I have TH and vowels. So ah, eh, ah, I. Now I'm going to have them read words that are going to be in that passage. That, thin, with, them, thin, bath, math. And then I'll always have the high frequency words. Now, these would generally be high frequency words that I've already taught. If you want a video on high frequency words and how I teach that, drop it in the comments below. But I would also have them read their high frequency words that they're going to see in this passage. Is, the, they, see, for, right? So now they have an idea. They've already seen all of these words in isolation. They're prepared to read this passage. This is how I teach whole class lessons and small group lessons. So I never change my structure. I just change the skill. And that is what makes it so simple. But on my passages, I could have them go through and highlight all of the TH words. Okay. So again, I'm going to have them have a highlighter and they're sitting there and they are finding all of our TH words and saying it sound and highlighting. So TH. Now you might have to remind them, hey, this passage has some that are going to say, right? Like them and they and the, right? So helping them to remember that some of these are going to be voiced, but most of them are going to be unvoiced. I have them go through and highlight all their THs and say the sound as they do it. And this is just going to help them to remind them that when they get to this new skill, oh yes, I have to remember my digraph, right? And then from here, I do it a couple of different ways. I might have them just read all of the TH words that are within the passage. So just as they go, they're just going to read it like this. That, thin, the, thin, with, them, they, the, bath, the, thin, bath, the, thin, math, the, bath, the, right? So they're reading only the TH words and then I have them read the whole thing. Now with this, I always have them read out loud because you will have kids that say they're reading when they're reading, but they're really not reading the passage. They're just putting their finger under there and pretending like they're reading, right? So I always make them read out loud. If they have to segment and blend, that's totally fine. But I would have them read it to me out loud. That cat is thin. The thin cat is with them. They can see the bath for the cat. The thin cat got in a bath. The thin cat did math. In the bath, the cat had fun. Now, there are so many ways that you can do this passage. If you wanted to work on fluency, you could. Fluency is going to be working on accuracy, rate, and expression. So you could talk about those things. Like you could say, today we're going to read with accuracy. That means that I want you to be able to read every single word correctly, right? Maybe they're not going to be reading this very quickly. If you wanted to work on rate, you could, and you could say, okay, I want, if they've read it 3 or 4 times by themselves, you could say, okay, let's read it together. And I want you to try to stay with me. This is what a fluent reader sounds like. They read like they talk, right? And their finger is under each word as we are both reading and they're following along with me and saying it with me. That cat is thin. I'm still probably going to slow it down just a little bit for a newer reader, but the thin cat is with them. So they can hear, they can see. I'm modeling how a fluent reader reads. You don't have to do that piece. This really, the main lesson here is, can they read TH words in a passage? But if you wanted to add that fluency piece in, you always could, depending on the time and attention span of your child. And then at the bottom of all my decodable passages, and this is why also I don't like a lot of decodable passages, is they don't have this comprehension piece. And this is an important piece, really, because the only reason we read is to learn, right? So I always put a fun little comprehension piece at the bottom so that they can say, okay, this is what I read and here is what the story was about. Now, you don't have to do this piece. You could just ask them what the story was about and they could orally tell you, but adding that piece can be fun for them as well. When I am doing a phonics lesson, I will use the decodable passages to help reiterate what it was that we learned and why we learned it. But I also have decodable readers. Now, these are super fun for kids to have maybe in their folder, that now they get to have the books with the patterns that they have already learned, or it is something that they can do if they finish their decodable passage and their comprehension piece, and maybe you need them to do something more. They can read a book that is with the pattern that you've talked about, or maybe they need more review on some of these other patterns. And so you're going to give them them a book to read. I love these because my kids were able to read an actual book that was at the level or the skill level that they were at. And so I do have these decodable readers as well on my website, and they do follow the pattern. So this one is CH, this one is SH, this one is TH, and this one is CK. Now within them, I also put WH words in there. However, the WH words, there are not very many that are going to have short vowels, and a lot of them are going to be more like high frequency words or question words. And so I do add them within each of these patterns so that they get to see those. But all of my decodable readers have short vowels, so this would be great for beginning readers that are needing to work on digraphs. Within the book as well, on the back, I have a let's read. So you could read this with your child or with your students to really get them excited for what is in the book. So this is something you would read to them so that they can get excited to read. And then within, I also have a sound page. So this is where they're going to practice sounds they're going to be seeing. They get to practice words in isolation with the pattern, and then any high frequency words that they are going to be reading within the story so that they get practice with those before they even start reading. But these are all going to be decodable so that it's going to follow the pattern. They can segment and blend most of these words, except for some of them that are going to be high frequency words. And then as a parent, if you ever have problems and you're like, I don't know how to help my child to read this book, in the very back of the book, I do have a parent guide, and it kind of goes over what you can do if, right? So what can you do if your child is struggling to read the words? What can you do if your child is struggling with the pattern? What can you do if your child is trying to guess words? What can you do if your child is overwhelmed by the words on the page? And then what can you do if your child starts to get tired when they are reading this book? But these books are awesome to have around once you have taught a pattern. So if you're an educator, you can put them in their folders so that they have practice reading a book with the pattern. And then even as a parent, you could have these books just around the house so that they can practice reading at the skill level that they are at, and it will help them to build confidence in their reading. So that is how I structure a phonics lesson that has helped me to be successful in teaching my students to read and write effectively. My district was actually #1 in the state of Utah for K-3 literacy skills using these strategies. I hope that this video was helpful. And then also all of the resources that I've used today are down below in the link, but I hope that this simplifies your phonics instruction or reading instruction time and that you find success in that. If you have not subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell so you're notified when I put out another video, and we will see you next time.